Well, welcome to the Red Chair. Today we have as a guest Luis Lebbos. Luis, great to see you, buddy.
Thank you for having me, Stefan.
You've been full-time here in Portugal for 2 years, but you've been coming since 2016. You co-founded AstroLabs. Tell us, who are you? Where did it all start?
On Portugal, almost 10 years coming here. I got married here in 2016 and loved the country. So we started spending more and more time, and eventually we moved here full time. Who am I? I guess since the business podcast, over the last 15 years, I've been starting companies. I quit McKinsey in 2011 and joined my co-founder to start an e-commerce company.
Where was this? Because
it was based in Dubai.
Where were you born?
Yeah. So I was born in Lebanon. Then at 18, I moved to the US. I did my undergrad in the US. I worked for 4 years. I studied engineering. I worked for 4 years in a very large manufacturing company in the US across different states, different types of roles. And at some point, I decided to do my MBA. Manufacturing was not super promising, especially in the US. I did my MBA. Out of the MBA, I ended up in consulting. That was not fit for me. And
so you went from HBS, you got into a consulting firm?
Yes. So left HBS in 2010. I joined McKinsey. I was not sure where to join McKinsey, but at one point they asked me, would you like to join the Dubai office? I was like, I'll check it out. I thought I would be in Dubai for 6 months. I actually did a 6 months lease when I landed because I'm not sure about this place. After 10 years in the US, I was, skeptical. But that, 6 months turned into year after year. And then, we basically moved out of there, 2.5 years ago.
So you saw the whole Dubai super growth.
Yeah. And it was very interesting because when I actually did an internship at McKinsey in 2009, and that was the depths of the financial crisis.
Yes.
And
people were leaving cars at the airport and stuff like that.
I didn't see those, but McKinsey had an office directly on that biggest highway in Dubai. And I would look out of the window, and no joke, sometimes you'd see 2 cars on the highway. That summer was empty. Dubai was quite empty.
Yeah.
And then year after year, more and more people, more and more businesses. I think, my wife and I think 2010 to 2020 were the golden years of Dubai. Amazing opportunity, growth and all this stuff. But just before it got quite crowded.
It's just too many people right now.
Yeah, now it's globally discovered, especially after COVID. It was very open in COVID. And now it's still a good place to live for some people, but it got a little bit too crowded for me.
But actually in COVID, you came here, right? You decided that you wanted to sort of even more freedom.
In the depths of COVID, it was super tight there, and we ended up coming, and we had off the Sintra Cascais natural area to Rome instead of being holed up in our apartment. And we spent maybe 5-6 months during COVID time, but then we went back.
And so, how did you start your company? So you left McKinsey, and then what happened?
So actually, I was at McKinsey. I knew I was not going to last. So I was just thinking about it. And at some point, I received an email from, a friend at McKinsey saying, I'm leaving to start a company. And I messaged him. I was like, is this for real? He says, yeah, let's talk. And I go out for, dinner with him. And he says, do you want to join me starting an e-commerce company? And I said, yes. Immediately, 2 weeks later, I had already submitted my resignation. Maybe even less. 2 weeks later, maybe I was out. I was at the end of the study, so that makes it easier. And we left. He had already secured a seed investment, and a few weeks before, and we started a fashion e-commerce company called Nemshi in Dubai. And then we had a third co-founder start with us. And we just scaled it super, super quickly because it was basically, as was the case in some emerging markets, almost an arbitrage opportunity. Dubai is an amazing retail and the GCC overall, but there was basically no serious fashion e-commerce play that did the job well.
So what was your role model? I mean, what company were you sort of...
basically Zappos.
Zappos.
Yeah. We saw Zappos. We actually loved Tony Hsieh, and we read his books and all the stuff. And we tried to replicate Zappos, but on steroids. We were interviewing
the GCC.
Yeah, serving basically out of the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Oman, mostly.
And
we did actually experiments doing other markets, but
those were the
retracted
markets.
it. Yeah.
So which year was this?
This was 2011. Yeah.
2011. And how quickly did the company grow?
From in the first year, I think we reached something like we reached more than 100 people. And I think we reached almost, if you annualize it, maybe $50 to $75 million of GMV. Actually, by early 2013, we had a mark of like almost $150 million of valuation.
And where did you get your investors from?
Yeah, so the original investor was, the seed investor was Rocket Internet. I'm pretty sure you've heard of them. They were crazy active at that stage. With, they were mysterious, but then, reputation. And basically, they would fund you if you would do something that has like a proven business plan, but like no idea risk. And it's all execution risk. That's basically how, Muhammad, connected with them. But then afterwards, you'd have to like execute, scale super fast, and then you raise more. And e-commerce is a very capital intensive. We were basically the inventory-based model. So not drop shipping, not, there was also another model.
You had inventory, basically.
Yeah, we had inventory, warehouses, all of that stuff.
Shippers.
Yeah. Because basically you're trying to get the known brands. And the known brands, Nike, Adidas, Lacoste, etc.
They're not gonna.
No, you have to buy, 6 months in advance. You go to the shows, you buy. They're not gonna give you stuff on consignment, and it's in-season stuff, right? Because there were also models, if you remember, like Guild Group and this type of stuff. They did kind of flash sales.
Yes.
Discount stuff and all stuff. We had competitors in the region that did that. That model we were a bit skeptical about. We like dabbled in it on the side, like to, toss load some inventory. But we believe that, normal people want to buy stuff in fashion, just like they always did, and offline or online. So we just did that. Yeah.
And so how did that go? What,
Yeah. So it was an insane time. Like the stories, I actually have drafts in my Google, Docs about, chapters I would write on that. We were, scaling insanely. There's like days where I interviewed 30 or 40 people, like in a day to like hire. We were hiring maybe 10 people. We moved 3 or 4 offices in the first year. And then about 18 months later or so, my co-founder and I decided to actually leave and start our own thing.
What was that?
Sorry?
Why did you do that?
We had scaled it quite a bit. We had a bunch of investors. At that stage, we were, diluted. And we didn't feel fully in control of what we do, right? So, the upside was not super high at that stage. And we wanted to do something like much more aligned with our mission. Muhammad moved from GSB to the region to do some kind of impact. I moved from HBS to the region with kind of like the idea of an impact. And honestly, we went like to, whiteboards, and we're like, what could be a company that we build ourselves, not fundraise for it? After you do like the extreme funding model,
yes,
how would you do the extreme non-funding model that super aligns with like who we are? And
so this
that's
was
how
2013, more or less.
Yeah, 2013. Yeah, and that's
and so you left, and what did you start?
So we started AstroLabs, and honestly, it was just a mission at the beginning. It was, how can we impact the regional ecosystem? We felt like there's like a lot of
sense.
Sorry?
In which sense?
how do you accelerate it? I mean, you felt that there was a lot of opportunity in Dubai and the GCC and the wider Middle East, but it felt like stuck. We could see. I mean, we hired. Before we left, we had hired almost 150 people to our teams at Namshi, and we could see that there's like raw talent that is like super hungry for opportunity. And honestly, the only options they had would either go to big corporates or the top went to the big corporates and nice jobs, or consulting companies and stuff. There must be another way that this talent, finds other opportunities. So the first thing we did was basically take all of our lessons from scaling a company, and we created a program that we did for startups called Scaling Online Startups that kind of like dumps everything we learned. Conversion optimization, stuff that, was not very well known in 2013. Marketing optimization, channels, all of the stuff. Even how to build teams, how to recruit, firing, all the stuff.
These blueprints.
Yeah, the blueprint of and then we just, create this program of let's give it to people. And we did a program, 12 startups joined it. And we honestly had a blast. They were incredibly grateful. We have still videos kind of recorded like this from 12 years ago. And we really enjoyed okay, how can we make this a business? Actually, we didn't charge for the first one. So we started charging for the next one. And because we didn't want to charge the startups too much, we're like, okay, maybe some big companies would sponsor this, kind of almost a podcast model now.
Yeah.
So we had people like Google for Entrepreneurs come in and support it. PayPal came in and supported it. A bunch of other entities at different times supported programs. And we actually took it around the region. So we did it in Saudi Arabia, we did it in Lebanon, Jordan.
Different programs.
The same program, basically, but new groups of startups.
Yeah.
And I would actually tailor it a little bit depending on kind of what stage they were in. Our only criteria basically was nice people that have actually already launched either a web or a mobile program. So a mobile startup. So that's basically what we did. Yeah.
Amazing. And so how is that going, and where are you right now?
Totally different company. At some point you run out of startups that qualify, and you also don't want to do the same thing anymore.
Whatever.
And there was an input from the founders okay, you told me what I should do in digital marketing, but I'm not going to be implementing it myself. Some of them already had teams and all of stuff. Can you teach my team digital marketing? So we kind of created a academy to teach coding and digital marketing and this type of stuff.
Which year was this?
This was probably late 2014, early 2015. And at the same time, we want to help people kind of more easily set up their companies. So we had a partnership with a government entity in Dubai, and we created a startup co-working space just for tech startups. And if you come and join it, you get a license for free. And it's was much simpler than setting up a license back then, 10 years ago. It still is, I think, now. So we also launched co-working spaces. Since then, honestly, it has evolved quite a bit. Now AstroLabs is mostly a corporate services provider, helping global companies set up their companies, entities, and operate in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Companies like UiPath, Sentinel-1, Magic Leap, Denata Group, Cyber Reason. I mean, global companies that want to operate in the GCC. We basically help them set up their local entities, which is a multi-month process. And we run everything on the ground for them that is not related to their business. HR, payroll, government relations, this type of stuff. We have a few hundred customers that use our kind of continuing products. Those are usually medium to large corporates. And we've, I think, helped in the setup process, maybe 2,000 customers almost from around the world in the GC. Still true to the mission.
All the boom of companies going to the region.
Yeah.
And they needed a local, enabler, basically.
I mean, the mission was always to help the local ecosystem, grow faster. And we moved from the smallest startup now to the biggest corporates. The ecosystem at the same time has changed quite a bit. Way more VC funds in both UAE and Saudi Arabia, way more startups, a bunch of exits. And we actually saw many of those startups from the beginning become, unicorns. So it has been amazing, 10, 12 years seeing kind of like the ecosystem grow so much. Now it's, I think, like pretty decent ecosystem.
What were the kind of like the main blocks that you saw? Why weren't people growing enough? It was lack of knowledge, lack of capital, just lack of innovative ideas. Have these startups in the GCC moved from being kind of like copies of other ideas into becoming really innovative companies? How have you seen this movement over the last decade?
I've always thought it's like a talent thing, and then 12 years ago I said it's a talent thing. Now I still say it's a talent thing. I think if you have qualified teams that are able to come together and experiment with an idea, and you have like good tech people, good people that've known how startups work, that's a much faster cycle than if you're like bringing people who are like consultants or coming from big corporate and say, okay, start a startup. They will succeed, but if you take like a big ensemble average at lower speed and lower success rate than people that have like gone through a startup, learned from it. I mean, a lot of our graduates, Endeavor is like doing a study now about the impact of the companies we started. The people that worked with us went and start many other companies. And same thing, not just Namshi, but like Karim started around the same time, graduated tons of startups. Maybe 50 to 100 startups went from Karim alumni. Having companies that graduate alumni that start more companies, I think is the thing. And I think that's a talent thing, because, funding always can follow. There was always, money in the GCC, but like, capital de risco, as you call it, will follow if there is opportunity. And opportunity was created by the people being comfortable in the startup environment and saying, actually, you know what? This guy, Lewis, is not that much smarter than me. I can also do a startup as well. And I've learned a few things doing it, working for a year or two in a startup. You learn so much, actually. I think it's the best school that you could probably go to is working for a startup.
For sure. And how do you see the region evolving from this point into the future?
I actually do not know. I think there's like infinite opportunity. I don't think, necessarily it's a ladder where, we did copies, then we do flavors, then we do quantum computing, there's some good universities in the region, but there's no like, there's no like ginormous R&D labs.
But Saudi is trying to create that.
Yeah, I mean, with AI and all of stuff. But the nice thing about the region, honestly, is like been always open to bringing global talent in.
Yes.
Many of the startups I mentioned, by the way, most of the founders, just like many of the US startups, when you see statistics, are like international founders. Myself and Hamad moved to the UAE. Magnus and Mudassir moved to the UAE and started Karim. A lot, and the region is like very open to having talent come in. So I think with talent being open to moving, I think there's a lot of opportunity for them to do things. But I guess on the fundamental tech, I'm not sure how the leap will happen. But honestly, even if you don't do the bleeding edge, there's so much opportunity everywhere in the world. Yeah,
right. Because the whole region has how many people nowadays?
I guess it depends on how you define the region, but like the GCC alone is probably 50, 60 million people. I mean, Saudi itself is like 35 million. So the wider Middle East, a few 100 million. And I think Karim ended up expanding beyond, to Pakistan and Morocco and all stuff. I'm not sure exactly what their footprint is now post Uber acquisition. But if you expand, I think the statistic is within 4-hour drive, 4-hour flight of Dubai, there's 2 billion people that live. You have India next door. India is basically an hour flight away. So there's infinite opportunity, I think, in the world. Yeah.
And in terms of the entrepreneurs, from everything you've seen over these years, what would be your sort of main key learning points? What would you say to an aspiring young entrepreneur for them to, follow or be on the lookout for?
If they're, committed to something, make it happen. And if not, and if they're interested in entrepreneurship, work for a couple of years in a startup. There's no better school. If they're committed to something, do it, because even doing it and failing is also the best. I think doing it within a startup is, a little bit less, less risky on a personal level. I think just doing it either way, either part of a startup or, doing it yourself.
And conversely, what were the kind of things, personal characteristics or behaviors that you think actually damaged your possibility of doing well when you launch a startup? What were the big mistakes that you saw being done?
I'm still doing these mistakes. By the way, these are only 2 companies out of maybe 10 that I tried to start. Even in the last, 3 years, I tried to start 2 new startups and I failed.
Part of the journey.
Yeah. Also love of the game, but sometimes, the game doesn't go your way. I think honestly, the team is the most important part. The 2 startups I mentioned, I started them with the same co-founder. You just like the team is super, super important. I think, mental flexibility, the ability to learn. You don't need to learn from advice here, but learning from the market. Sometimes, you see some want to be founders, get feedback from the market and they don't want to accept it. If that feedback loop is broken,
it's very difficult.
It's impossible. I don't think it's possible. So I think being open, being humble and open to learning from the market. The market is the best teacher, but there's signals sometimes from other people that come that are also useful.
But sometimes being humble is not a very common trait in the most successful entrepreneurs. Is this an impossible thing to combine?
I think it's intellectual humility. I think, pride and ambition is a good driver, but intellectual humility that I don't know all the answers. I think even if you look at, Elon or, Zuck or name anyone, they have intellectual humility. You see Elon's tweets, everyone does. But Elon goes into a meeting and he's super curious about what did I learn about this failure? Falcon 9 exploded. Okay, what can we learn? That's intellectual humility. So you don't have to be humble, Buddhist monk humble, but intellectual humility, I can learn something from someone else saying it or from something happening,
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. And so you live here in Portugal, you have a growing family. Do you like being here? What's the... Do you think you're going to do a business here at some stage?
I don't know. I love being here. Yeah, so love having my kids here. Love everything about it. Love Cascais. Business, maybe. I'm not sure. I have a 1-year-old at home. So until she's in school, I don't think I would do a full-time, super aggressive startup.
Right.
Because I just love spending hours and hours per day with her. And even my son, I love my son too. Maybe he'll watch this in the future. But he's at school, 8 hours per day. So that leaves a huge time. But I'm always actually experimenting. I actually spend maybe 4 or 5 hours per week experimenting with the latest AI, LLM, other kind of model stuff, teaching myself, building stuff myself, because I'm personally curious about a lot of stuff, and when something so interesting happens, you have to spend time and invest to learn experiments. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Always welcome. to Indico. We hope that you enjoyed.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I did enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.